Welcome everyone to my new series, The Capcom Campaign, where I play through every Capcom title they've ever released, chronologically. Giving you, the dear viewer, a deeper look into the events that led to franchises like Resident Evil, Devil May Cry,
what the hell is this?
Mega Man,
the guy named Sheepman fucked me up!
and who could possibly forget Capcom's shining crown jewel, Marusa no Onna, a Famicom game based on a Japanese dark comedy romance film? I'm getting a little far ahead here. Let's sharpen our great swords, reload our samurai edge, and get started on the long road through the Capcom catalog. Our story, however, doesn't start with Capcom. It starts with a man named Kenzo Sugimoto. Sugimoto was once the president of another video game developer / publisher called IREM Corporation. However, on May 30th, 1979, the far-out year of... and...
Warriors, come out to play! Warriors, come out to play!
He founded Capcom's predecessor, the very originally named IRM Corporation. Kinda feels like he just forgot a letter when writing out his first company's name and just said, fuck it, we'll go with that. That sounds good. Cool, everyone cool with that? Alright. The important bit about IRM Corp is its subsidiary, Capsule Computers, both of which devoted themselves to creating electronic arcade machines, and thus throwing their hats into the ring of the arcade market. These names wouldn't last, however, and in September of '81,
Right. Hey, Ash, I guessed the card right.
Yeah, truly amazing, Linda.
the name of IRM was changed to Sanby Co. And then Capsule Computers was changed in June of '83 to the well-known Capcom Co. Ltd., which was then tasked to sell software exclusively. And in the same year, released two games I will never be able to play called Little League and Fever Chance. Now, you might be thinking, well, Schmeaty, your journey has ended before it began. Return to the depths of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 lab from whence you came. And to that I say, nay. I'm gonna justify this by saying that they aren't video games. They're more akin to a pachinko machine or pinball. Maybe someday I'll play them, but I doubt I will ever set eyes on one in my lifetime. So let's put those aside for now. The Capcom catalog truly starts with a little-known title named Vulgus. The word Vulgus comes from Latin and refers to people in lower layers of society. Capcom sure has some foresight, calling out Virgil Anchor players in UMVC3 like this.
Jump short. Very nice.
And losing a quick 50. Oh, drops it. Catches him before he lands.
What a blessing.
I feel like that was a little bit of karma, though, to be honest.
Think so?
After the beginning?
I believe it. I believe it. Oh, no, that was so sick, and it was meaty, too. No.
Jokes aside, Vulgus was released in Japan and North America in May of 1984.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
And you could only obtain this legendary title as a conversion kit for SNK boards. Info on Vulgus is quite sparse, but like Death Stranding is the first Strand genre game, Vulgus has the dust-covered and slightly crooked award of the world's first pointing game? Truly incredible. Thank you, Capcom. I actually played through Vulgus live on Twitch, and it's a very basic top-down shooter that utilizes an 8-way joystick and 2 buttons. One for missiles and one for normal shot. You play as an overweight Vic Viper against the hordes of, random shapes, little spaceships, bugs, bats, and, the Blue Beetle's ship? So, yeah. I guess compared to other shoot-em-ups that have come out since, it isn't that strange, but man, I want to know the thought process behind some of these designs. Like, okay, how do you go from tiny little spaceships? That's cool, I understand, it's a shoot-em-up, it's in space, that's awesome. And then you're just like, oh, but there needs to be a giant metallic bat. This game doesn't have enough giant metallic bats. Yes, Mr. Sugimoto. Yes, I understand that you're in a very important meeting at the moment, but, I think we found the secret to corner the market. None of these other arcade games have giant metallic bats and really obscure DC Comics character references. When you play Vulgus, it's the standard quarter gobbling affair. You get 3 lives and a few missiles and are unceremoniously thrust into the desert level where you are gonna face hordes of enemies that you destroy for points, while picking up POW pickups for more missiles. The levels will cycle through 6 tile sets: desert, space, jungle, space, Arctic, Vulgus, the last of which will contain the titular boss. Once defeated, you return back to desert and start the cycle again. Vulgus doesn't have a definitive end, so I can't play this one to completion. Let's consider this one down. I have a bunch more I have yet to plow through. Vulgus probably saw success in arcades, considering that in the radical year of '84, Capcom opened up their first wholly owned arcade called Nickel City Acti that survived until late 2001 when the building was demolished. Unfortunately, very little exists of Vulgus release, reception, and profits. So I'm going off educated guesses, sadly. I have found some snippets from interviews with a man named Tokuro Fujiwara, the creator of a few minor titles you've probably never heard of, like, you know, Resident Evil.
Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a jibble sandwich.
You're right.
And Ghosts and Goblins.
So this is the case where getting crabs is a good thing?
And Tomba 2.
Hype?
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
He details his departure from Konami with a co-worker, Yoshiki Okamoto, to take up an offer at Capsule Computers, as quoted here. In those days, it was still called Capsule Computers. What was the first game you made after transferring to Capcom? That would be Vulgus. Fujiwara also states in this interview that while Vulgus is the first Capcom game released, Okamoto's game, Sonson, a vile, evil game with no mercy and a penchant for chaos and a very unhealthy idea of fairness.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What?
But enough about those horrible memories. While Sonson was supposed to be first, Vulgus ended up getting finished faster, with an any percent run of 3 months. Yeah, games were finished and in arcades in 3 months, which just blows my mind when you compare that to the lengths we understandably wait today. Obviously, games take a longer time to develop and bigger teams now to be released in a proper state. But still, there are some games that feel like they'll just never come out. Anyways, let's talk about the legacy of Vulgus, which there's surprisingly more information available about when compared to literally anything else about the game. Vulgus hasn't survived quite as well as most Capcom games, besides both Captain Commando and Deadpool mentioning it in their MVC win quotes, with Cap exclaiming, "Capcom's first game was Vulgus, made in 1984. And the good old Merc with a mouth. The man who seems to exclusively make friends with people who don't have feet.
now for something completely different.
We'll try to explain our thinking on how we're coming across and why we're doing overkill the way it is.
You can think and draw at the same time?
Yeah.
He's got the biggest shoulder pads ever existed. It's like
I figured he would.
His chest.
Okay.
I have a question I've been wanting to ask you guys. How long does it take these people to get dressed, these kind of characters?
Who says they undress?
I mean, there's something they have to get out quickly to save the world, but it takes them an hour and a half to get into all of this stuff
That's
if
right.
they work fast.
That's right.
But you do show, very often you show people getting dressed, especially women. I seem to recall that now.
Yeah, no.
You draw hands? Are you into hands?
Oh,
really?
yeah, I'm the best.
You do hands?
Why don't we give them here, wires coming out here, coming down. Up.
They love that
The kids
stuff.
love wires.
The wires that he'll trip over
Why don't we
when he's
do
running.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think I've got to say seriously, which isn't easy for me to do, but I think it's very impressive that in a matter of 20 minutes you guys could come up with something like this. I mean, bad as it is, it's still impressive that you were able to do it this quickly.
Well,
There's no way this man can move. He's got to have a power to defy gravity, I would say, just looking at
he's
him.
a tank.
Beginners.
Overkill
I
him.
just want you to, we have a minute and
Oh,
a half
with
or
the
so.
foot.
I want to tighten those feet.
Okay.
All right, guys?
Okay. Give him an ankle bone here, an ankle bone here.
I think it takes you longer to sign your name
Heck
than draw
yeah,
a picture. You know?
it is.
I'm gonna step out, okay?
Incidentally, you guys have ruined us. We've decided to give up comics and we're going into showbiz.
Deadpool claims that he is going to continue to petition Capcom for a Vulgus 2. Look it up. A few other notable mentions are the boss in Power Stone, Vulgus, and an unreleased game called Titan Warriors, which was to be called Neo Vulgus in Japan. These are the only two images of the game, as well as this short story description. Your Titan spacecraft is pitted against mutant alien invaders that are destroying the planet Vulgus. You must pursue the aliens through space and interplanetary obstacles to save the planet and your spacecraft. However, by far, the most legacy Vulgus got was from this little bastard. Meet the Yashichi. Throughout our journey, we will be seeing him a lot. He was an enemy in Vulgus, which you have probably seen in the footage a few times already. There really isn't a whole lot that's special about him, honestly. He's just a shuriken that landed on a balloon and is now having a field day invading every Capcom game on the planet, apparently. He usually appears as a power-up in other Capcom titles, or just as a random background element. I won't bother listing everything he's appeared in, and am instead just going to call him out every time I see him and wait until you guys get sick of that and report me to the internet authorities. You know, I heard rumors that Yashichi was in Polybius. I mean, just look at the way he spins. When you stare at his center, it calms you. He becomes everything and envelops you in his cold, dark embrace. So, anyone want to join my newly founded religion for our spinning overlord? I'm gonna go prepare the initiation ritual. Please, unenlightened viewers, continue on without me. Overall, Vulgus is a fun game, but I feel like it lacks the addictive quality that keeps you coming back like later arcade games. Maybe I'm just spoiled with the plethora of amazing arcade titles, but I feel like there isn't enough here to compel me to return to it on my free time like I have with other titles. Even just in the same gaming sessions, I would literally return to Sonson in 1942, 2 other titles by Capcom released in the same year as Vulgus on my free time. The music loop in Vulgus is short, but it doesn't become repetitive, surprisingly, with how forgettable it is. This is probably one of the only Capcom games that has weak music, but it's their first, so we need to take that into account. If you think I'm being mean to poor Vulgus, let's see some user reviews. A ratty game that is not worth the download, unless you are just nostalgic. Well, after reading that, I genuinely don't feel too bad anymore. That is just not a nice thing to say about anything that somebody makes, I would say. I mean, it's not even constructive, it's just calling it a ratty game, and that's it. That's the review. Could you imagine if this review was just me going, it is a ratty game, not worth the download unless you are just nostalgic. Like, this game is probably like 2 megabytes. It probably takes less than a second to download it, and this guy can't even be bothered. That is how little he gives a fuck. At the time of its release, Vulgus had a lot to compete with, honestly. Not to mention, it wasn't... let's just say it wasn't a very fun time to be a video game company between 83 and 84.
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
But man, if they didn't persevere and pull through, creating some names and video game icons that will probably never be forgotten. The only other thing I can say about Vulgus is that it's not Resident Evil 6, thank the Lord Yashichi.
Yo, you wanna learn how to do a fucking infinite? I'ma teach you motherfucking bitch ass. Easiest shit in the motherfucking Marvel 3, Marvel 2. Fuck it. I don't give a fuck. Iron Man. Alright, jump up in the air and hit up fucking heavy.
Hey, so this is my outro. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content and want to join me for more ramblings as I go through the Capcom catalog, up next we have Sonson, a game that robs me of my happiness and is actually really fun to play. There should be more to talk about in that one, I feel. Vulgus has such bare bones amount of info about it that I really had to put my nose to the grindstone just to find everything that I included here. Shout out and thanks to John Anderson, a real hero who gave me more info about acting and a few cool tips on how to research. Everyone who sees this is obligated to follow him on Twitter. And trust me, I'll know if you didn't. I'll know. I want to give another big thanks to DJ Hero for this hype as hell outro song. And thank you, the viewer, for watching this.
Now shut the fuck up and learn some goddamn combos.